The moment we lost contact with Earth, we knew something was wrong, but we had no idea just how wrong it would get. I'm Captain Ethan Cole, and we were the crew of the Artemis 7 mission, sent to explore the farthest reaches of the moon, a place no human had ever set foot on. It was supposed to be a routine mission: land, gather samples, and return. But nothing about that mission was routine. It started as we approached the landing site. The instruments went haywire, spinning out of control, flashing warnings that made no sense. Our landing was rough, far from the precision we trained for. When we touched down, everything went dead. Communications, lights, even the hum of the life support systems. We were plunged into total silence, the kind that makes your skin crawl. After what felt like an eternity, the systems flickered back to life, but the damage was done. We were alone, completely cut off from Earth. The dark side of the moon stretched out before us, barren and lifeless, or so we thought. As we exited the lander, the ground beneath our boots felt wrong, softer, almost like it was giving way. It was as if the moon itself was alive, breathing beneath us. We shrugged it off, trying to focus on the mission, but then we noticed the footprints. At first, they looked like ours, deep impressions in the lunar dust, leading away from the lander. But as we followed them, they became erratic, twisted, as if whoever made them was running, stumbling in terror. Then we saw the source of those prints: a spacesuit, torn and empty, lying half buried in the dust. It wasn't one of ours. It was old, worn, and it didn't match any design we knew. Before we could process what we were seeing, the ground started to tremble. A low rumble echoed beneath us, growing louder and louder, until it became a deafening roar. We looked up, and that's when we saw them. Figures, human-shaped, but wrong, impossibly tall, their limbs too long, their faces featureless. They stood motionless, just beyond the light of our helmets, watching us. We backed away, but they didn't follow. They just stood there, waiting. We retreated to the lander, sealing the hatch behind us, our hearts pounding, but we weren't safe. The air inside grew thick, oppressive, like something was pressing down on us. The lights flickered, and that's when we heard the voices. They started as whispers, barely audible over the hum of the systems, but they grew louder, more insistent. They spoke in a language none of us recognized, a guttural, alien sound that twisted in our minds. One of my crewmates, Daniels, started to scream, clawing at his helmet, shouting that something was inside with us. We tried to calm him down, but then the lights went out completely. The darkness was absolute, suffocating. I fumbled for my flashlight, and when I turned it on, I wished I hadn't. Daniels was gone. His suit was there, but it was empty, deflated, like all the air had been sucked out in an instant. Panic set in. We scrambled to reboot the systems, to get out of there, but nothing worked. The lander was dead, and so were our hopes of getting off that cursed rock. And then the hatch opened by itself. We didn't open it. It just slid open, slowly, and the air outside was black, thicker than it should have been. And there, standing just outside the door, was Daniels, or what was left of him. His body was twisted, broken in ways that defied logic. His limbs bent at impossible angles. His face, or what should have been his face, was just a gaping void, dark and endless. He, or it, started to move toward us, but it didn't walk. It hovered, sliding across the ground, pulled by some unseen force. The whispers became screams, echoing inside our helmets, inside our heads. We tried to run, but the lander was small. There was nowhere to go. One by one, my crewmates started to disappear, their suits collapsing like empty sacks. Each time, the whispering grew louder, more frantic, until it was a deafening roar that drowned out all thought. I was the last one left, backed into a corner, the flashlight trembling in my hand. Daniels, or whatever was wearing his suit, loomed over me, the void where his face should have been drawing me in, pulling at my very soul. I felt the air leave my lungs, felt the cold of the moon seep into my bones. And then I blacked out. When I opened my eyes, I was somehow back on Earth, in a recovery room, surrounded by doctors and technicians. They told me that I was the only one that came back in the lander, completely pale. They have no explanation for how I survived. But I know something followed me back. It feels that someone used me to get to Earth. The whispers, they're still with me. They never stop, echoing in my mind, growing louder, more insistent with each passing day. They speak in voices I can't fully understand, but their meaning is clear. We never should have gone to the dark side of the moon. There's something there, something ancient, something that was never meant to be disturbed. And now, it knows about us. It knows we exist. And it's only a matter of time before it comes for the rest of us.